Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm with Dr. Ilker Hacihaliloglu. I'm not sure if I got that right, Ilker.
Totally fine. Yes, it's a long name.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Or Hilker is the CTO and co-founder of a really interesting company called Pons, and looking forward to him telling us all about it. But yeah, Ilker, if you could just start by introducing yourself, give us a little bit of your
Mhm.
background, and tell us about Pons.
Sure, great. Again, I'm one of the co-founders of Pons, together with my twin brother. I'm the CTO, he's the CEO. So my background is I obtained my PhD in electrical engineering, and then I moved to New Jersey. I was a faculty member in New Jersey, Rutgers University, in the biomedical engineering department for 7 years almost. And then towards the end of those 7 years, we started Pons, and because of that, Pons is based out of Newark, New Jersey. But currently, I'm also an associate faculty member in the Department of Radiology and Medicine at the University of British Columbia in Canada. So I split my time between Canada and US. So and then yeah, so this is a little bit about me. My research focuses on AI in healthcare applications, with a specific focus on ultrasound imaging. I
Great.
was always fascinated with the ultrasound imaging modality, but then there's a lot of challenges associated with it as well. So that's why we started Pons through
Oh,
my research and the patents we have.
great. Just tell us a little bit about Pons, Ilker. What does
Mhm.
it do? And yeah, what was the inspiration behind it?
Sure. So Pons is a software technology company that we're developing solutions for ultrasound imaging in general. And then our main goal is to identify diseases, chronic diseases, with a specific focus on breast cancer and liver disease. Identify these conditions very earlier so that it can be treatable. Because any kind of chronic condition, if you catch the disease at an earlier stage, it's much more treatable versus late stage. It usually spreads to other regions in the body, and it's usually managing at that point. It's very hard. So Pons started with this idea, basically pushing ultrasound outside the traditional hospital settings, making it available in decentralized care
Hmm.
solutions. That's really, there's a lot of push right now towards that.
Yep.
But then with ultrasound, there's also a lot of challenges associated with it. Like the advantage is small, portable. With the new point of care ultrasound devices, you can connect it to your cell phone or tablet
Oh,
and
wow.
scan people anywhere. But the two main challenges is number one, the image quality is very low for imaging early stage disease. Ultrasound is fantastic for secondary as a secondary imaging modality, confirming the disease if it's at a late stage. But early stage disease imaging is challenging. The other challenge with ultrasound is, and overall in healthcare, like AI solutions need very large scale data
Yep.
to be robust to different scenarios, right? So those are the two challenges that were missing, and then we started the company Pons to address those challenges.
Excellent. Excellent. And what was
Mhm.
the inspiration behind it, Ilker?
Yeah. So again, it's based on my research. So with the idea of like we were always collaborating with clinicians, radiologists, oncologists, and scientists from Rutgers and the New Jersey Cancer Institute. And the goal was always like, how can we improve the diagnostics and catch disease at an earlier stage,
Yep.
right? So, and then with ultrasound, you can collect more data, and then you can bring it outside the hospital settings. But then the quality was not there. So we developed, and the patented solution we have right now is there's the one of the advantages we developed is like at a time where AI was not really that big. Nobody
Yep.
was looking into AI. So because of that, like our solution is a non-AI based solution, which is a significant advantage because we don't need large scale training data. It works on any kind of ultrasound machine, which
Interesting.
is a device agnostic software solution. The other thing it does is it enhances the quality so you can see the invisible tissue changes earlier. And the second thing it does, it creates from one single image 50 more images,
Hmm.
real images. So if you have 1 million ultrasound images, we end up providing 50 million ultrasound images.
Wow.
And then that's what it does is basically when you're developing downstream AI solutions for disease risk assessment, segmentation, object detection, early stage disease detection, those AI solutions, their robustness improves across the board. The AI will not be biased towards sex, towards ethnicity, towards any race group or location where the data is collected. It focuses purely because of the large scale data and the enhancement. The AI solutions focus purely on the really the changes that appear from early stage disease tissue data. That's our strength as a company.
Interesting, interesting. So I find it very interesting that you kind of split your time between New Jersey and British Columbia.
Mhm.
I'm originally from Canada. My sister lives in Vancouver. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you had mentioned that you don't see noticeable differences between populations. Is there a reason for that, Ilker? Are you trying to sort of, validate that? Because again, when you get into the rural areas of British Columbia and other areas of Canada, very
Mhm.
different, right? Large First Nations population. Uh,
Yeah.
is that some of the motivation behind this? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. That's because that's what why decentralized care is really moving fast in every healthcare system, like it being in US, being in Canada. US also has similar problems. There's a lot of rural areas where the nearest hospital is 2, 3 hours away. There's basically minority groups who need access to high quality imaging. We have an aging population. People don't want to basically move the comfort of their homes. They want to be treated at home. So that's why there's a lot of shift into this home hospital at home based care in US and in Canada, as you mentioned as well. There's a lot of basically indigenous communities or like the small communities where the nearest hospital is far away. You need either a helicopter to bring them back to the hospital or they need to drive. That's time consuming, right? But if you can bring high quality imaging to the home through hospital home care services, that will be the ideal solution. So you can image the patient, and only the patient who really needs to be at the hospital will be admitted to the hospital. So that will also avoid overcrowding of the hospitals, which is a major issue right now for big academic research hospitals, because they're running over capacity. That's also a burden into the workflow system, burden to radiologists. Not everybody has to be treated inside the hospital. If you can triage patients and then only admit the ones that really need urgent care and treat the patients who don't need urgent care in the comfort of their home, that will be an ideal solution. And there's a lot of shift towards that. And our focus is again ultrasound. There's a lot of initiatives that deploying ultrasound in these settings. We want to make ultrasound better. So you can think about basically the app you download that shows basically we call it like a night vision of ultrasound. We show that tissue that's invisible to traditional ultrasound. We make it better.
Interesting. Yeah, if you could just maybe give us a sense of the user experience. So the
Mhm.
clinicians or the medical professionals experience using the software and the patient's
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. No, fantastic. So the patients are always basically happy to be treated at home, right? They want, again, like they want universal access to high quality imaging, and that's what we're providing. So it's again, you can be scanned in a local community clinic, you can be scanned in an outpatient imaging center, or if you're enrolled to a hospital at home service, you can be scanned there. For example, for breast cancer, there's a lot of women. The cancer cases are on the rise, and then the age of diagnostics is drops down as well. So we need to monitor patients, women who are in a high risk group for breast cancer more frequently. But then a lot of women, they're busy with work life, they're
Sure.
busy with their family life, they don't have time, they schedule their appointments, they miss them, they don't have time
Yep.
to go to the hospital, and then they have to wait there, or some of them don't even have access to high quality care. So we're trying to bring all that by basically deploying our software solutions. So that's from the patient side, because we want to ultimately, if you move into a decentralized care setting, you can reduce the cost of associated imaging services if you're deploying point of care ultrasound solutions. So from a clinician perspective, clinicians would like to help their patients, right? They want to, if they have technologies that they basically show them, look, you can diagnose someone earlier, you can diagnose the patient faster, you can monitor a patient more frequently. They're all for that, right? They want to provide the best care possible, especially coming from a clinician side. That's that. But then there's also the aspect of radiologists, right? Because radiologists look at the data, they provide the initial assessment, and then that goes to the doctor's office or secondary analysis. So there's a huge workflow, like not workflow, there's an overload of radiologists. There are basically imaging studies are becoming more and more, they're more requested. A lot of patients, as I mentioned, are diagnosed with more different cases of cancers. So the cancer cases are on the rise, the workload is increasing. So how can we make this workflow more efficient inside the hospital settings as well as outside the hospital settings for companies who are providing teleradiology services, for example. So one way to do this is basically time, right? If you reduce the time of a radiologist, like if the time they spend on one patient, they can move on to the next patient much faster. So we can show the disease much clearer, much better. So then the time they spend at looking at one ultrasound data is reduced. The second thing we do that is basically if they cannot see anything from the original ultrasound data, they end up requesting either an additional ultrasound scan. Don't need to call the patient back. That's very time consuming.
Yeah.
Or they request an MRI scan, CT scan, mammography scan. So you basically, again, that's time, that's cost, and also time consuming as well. So we are avoiding all that. Time to diagnosis is reduced. The AI solutions that they deploy to show the risk of disease or the diagnostic solutions they deploy, they become more robust and accurate. So basically, we're helping them improve their efficiency, workload efficiency as well. So that's what we're providing as a company. So the clinicians are very happy with the solution. We have one pilot with Mayo Clinic as well. They're very happy. We're starting several other pilots with major stakeholders that they want to see solutions like ours to be deployed in hospitals as well as in different settings.
Cool. So is your go-to-market strategy, are you creating software that then integrates into other ultrasound technology? Are you creating a device? What is sort of the
Mhm.
ultimate form of the product, Ilker?
Yeah. So the product go-to-market strategy like involves licensing our technology
Yeah.
to academic research hospitals to improve their efficiency inside the hospital settings, to improve their efficiency for hospital home services they're providing. If they're collecting ultrasound data as part of that, we're making that ultrasound technology better and improve their workload efficiency for teleradiology companies, outpatient imaging service providers as well. There's a lot of companies that are basically doing amazing things in that area. And all of them are collecting ultrasound data, analyzing ultrasound data, reading ultrasound data, diagnosing patients based on that. So that's again, when they deploy license our technology, we improve the quality of their ultrasound images. We scale their data set size significantly. That's a major advantage without collecting more data.
Right.
So you will end up having 50 million images by only collecting 1 million data. If you have 10 million images, we'll scale that to 500 million images. That's a huge advantage. And yeah, that goes through our licensing based approach. Our go-to-market strategy is based on that.
Cool. Great.
Mhm.
So medical technology faces significant regulatory hurdles and technical challenges.
Mhm.
What have been your biggest obstacles, and how have you navigated them?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question as well. So we need for one of the AI solutions we're developing, which is like the risk assessment and disease diagnostics AI, we need an FDA approval. So with the pilot studies, we're going to use the data, which is that's also the added advantage of doing pilots. Like you collect data locally and then you can use that data set to apply for an FDA approval. Our FDA will be a software as a medical device, 510(k). There's predicative devices available that are already developed for ultrasound diagnostics. We are showing that we are improving. If you only like our pilot studies are showing, for example, if you develop an AI solution for diagnosing breast cancer, as an example, if you only were to train that AI model with traditional ultrasound data, this is the accuracy you get. Let's say 80%, 60%. But then if you deploy our image enhancement technology, the accuracy shifts to 90% or sometimes in some cases above 90%. So that's what we're showing, and that we're going to submit an FDA based on that. We don't see any problems with that. The major problem, not problem, but the challenge is accessing healthcare data, and that we're doing through the pilots we're performing, also showing that like okay, you access the data, but is it robust at different demographics, right? How does that work if for liver disease for females versus male patients, right? How does it work between for patients who are aged 40 and below versus 40 and above, right? How does it work on African American population versus Hispanic population? How does it work on Mayo Clinic data collected at Rochester site versus Scottsdale, Arizona, right? So that we're showing that the robustness stays the same because we're providing that advantage.
So I think it's really interesting that you have a very strong academic background,
Mhm.
and now again you're building commercial applications. Tell us a little bit about how you've managed that transition. How do you juggle all the different responsibilities of being a professor, but also being a
Yeah.
business person?
Well, that's again, it's a lot of work. It's not easy. But my research, I'm very lucky and fortunate enough to be involved in biomedical engineering department and then in AI. So that's an interdisciplinary research basically department, also as well as in radiology. Radiology is also one of the main basically centers that where AI is deployed inside the healthcare ecosystem a lot, right? So and then we have so I was always involved with clinicians. The research I did was always in the translational domain. So it was used, the models were developed using real data. I always thought of basic, how can we deploy this? Because if you develop an AI solution, that's one thing, but deploying inside the healthcare ecosystem is another basically challenging thing to overcome. So I was always in that domain. So that kind of helped as well. And again, so the research is that I do is also very close to what we're trying to do at the company level. So that's an advantage as well. But the main thing is, again, I was always in this field. That helps. It's not like I started if I was to start a climate AI solution, that will be more challenging, I guess.
Yeah.
But so far, I think it's hard. It's not easy. So I get up at, for example, my meetings start at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning because
Yeah.
of the East Coast, West Coast time difference. And then I end up finishing my like UBC work at basically later. It's like 7, 8 p.m. And then it goes on with juggling other things academia related, like basically graduating students, publishing. But again, there's a gray zone that overlaps,
Right.
so which is an advantage to have. And there's a lot of I mean colleagues of mine who are radiologists. They're in the same boat. They start their startup companies. So right now, I think there's a big shift, especially in the healthcare ecosystem, towards that. A lot of academicians, radiologists, or clinicians start companies, and then they end up being successful because they know the domain, they know what's missing, and they're developing technologies that will be utilized in the healthcare ecosystem.
Right. Right. Cool. Well, this has been a fascinating interview.
Mhm.
Thanks so much for sharing. Just one final question, Ilker. What advice would you have for other medical technology entrepreneurs, whether they start in academia or somewhere else?
No, I think that the one thing is it's a healthcare technology development uh, progresses very slowly. It's not an easy domain, so I would tell them be patient, right? So and then I always basically talk with a lot of stakeholders. Like talk with if you're not a radiologist, talk with more radiologists. If you're an engineer, like myself, trained as with engineering background, always talk with clinicians. Always get their feedback and that because that's going to help to improve your go-to-market strategy. That's going to help you to focus on a technology that you will be developing and eventually will be utilized. So that's we actually like our initial application was not chronic conditions. It was traumatic brain injury assessment. Uh, but we talked with a lot of clinicians before we started the company, and then that's when we made a spin to chronic disease because that requires more data collection than traumatic brain injury. So again, my advice will be it's not easy. That they need to be aware of that because like getting approvals in healthcare takes time. And then with this ecosystem, VCs don't want to invest a lot unless there's product is already there and past certain stages. So it's a challenging process, but eventually, like you're helping humans. You're helping basically make their life better. You're helping. Like we always say that we believe that nobody should lose their loved ones to preventable diseases. These diseases can be preventable if we catch them early. So that's our basic driving motivation. We're helping our neighbors, we're helping our friends, we're helping our brothers or your family members eventually once these technologies are developed and utilized. That's the driving force and motivation we have that basically compensates for the challenges that are involved in AI for healthcare ecosystem.
Great. Well, this has been an amazing interview. Congratulations on all of your progress so far, and all the best of luck going forward.
Thank you so much, Dario. Thank you for having us, and looking forward to meeting you somewhere in person, hopefully.